Good afternoon. It is August 29th, 2022. And today we just had a range day. Mostly, I guess you could say the bias was up, but it was pretty choppy. So these overnight highs, I guess maybe you would have looked at it like this, but that makes the measured move pretty massive. So I do think from the opening price yesterday afternoon, to this low, I think that's what the overnight range was. And you can see we hit the measured move. We closed the gap. I think we failed to close it right here. So we closed the gap here, found some resistance, some people selling off, looks like two measured legs. And then our next target was this measured leg. Or this measured move of the overnight range. So you can see, and that's where the opening price was too. So it's a measured move of that. We hit that, and prices sold off pretty quickly, but then they came down to this midline and bounced. And you can see we found resistance again at that measured move. And when we were going higher, well, you obviously have this closing price from Friday. So that's going to be a target. But then we also had just what looks to be the midline or like the quarter line. You can see if you break it into fours, 1, 2, 3, 4, that looks like that's what the measured move would be at. And so you can see we find resistance there. And so these targets are very, you can understand them. You can understand them if you look and study and ask yourself these questions. So something to think about. 5 o'clock comes in somewhere around here, and prices are just ranging. So there is some clues that we're going higher. You can see it bounced off the midline 4 or 5 times. So you get this failure set up. And what I like about this is you can see it goes above the EMA, tries to go lower once but goes higher, tries to go lower again but goes higher. Not the type of setup I like, because this is very congestive and range-like, but when it tries to go below the EMA twice, you might take that. But this goes below the EMA, so I'm not too crazy about that. This looks like a hidden second entry, but it's also a failure, so you might take that. But by then you have a trend line, and it's not quite off the trend line. So it is a failure. It is like a hidden second entry, so something to think about. And we come down here and we get a failure. And this is the setup that I've come to like. I mean, it's not off a trend line, so it could be better. But when it goes above the EMA, tries to go lower once, twice, that's the type of failure I like. But this is not a good one. It's not off a trend line, and it looks like we're going into strong resistance. So we do go higher. And you get a second entry long, but the signal bar is no good. Yeah, and you're not too certain that that's a trend channel yet. But then you get a failure to the low side, and I marked this red, but again, I mean, it's not. We're going into support. So should I mark this red? Probably not. I should probably mark this green. But what I like is that it shoots below the EMA, tries to go higher once, tries to go higher a second time. And we had a break of this channel and 2 legs up to a new high. So you might take that. But look how congestive it becomes. You would have been out of the trade by this bar here. So, and then this is a second entry short, but look how congestive it is at that point. And now it's clear that there is some support here. Eventually it pushes through, but we come up here and you get a second entry long that kind of also looks like a first entry, failed second entry. Actually, the failure probably came right here. But that's like at congestion, so I'm not too crazy about that. But this second entry long, I like that. And you can see this range. You have the counter trend break, the with trend break, and then it's just chopping around some more. This is all congestive. I don't like any of this. Second entry, but it doesn't set up well. Congestion at these highs. So be careful when that happens. I don't see why anyone would really get tricked here. This failure, I don't like it just because all this is above the EMA. But then I thought I liked this one. I think I'm going to mark it green just because you're not too sure about this trend line, but this kind of looks, I guess that's why I didn't mark it. It's not really much of anything, because this would be the failure. And yeah, that's not a great setup. So if this were a new high, I would like this setup, but it's not a new high. Come down here, you actually get a second entry short, but it doesn't set up. This is congestive. First entry, failed second entry. Why do I like this? Because it would be off a trend line if you drew it, though it's kind of sideways. And it shoots below the EMA, tries to go above once, a second time, and fails to do so. So I like that. And then we just find support, bounce, and you form a trend line right here. But unfortunately, there's no good setups on this. You get this first entry, second entry, not a good setup, and then you get a bounce, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So now we get, this is a break. This is a more convincing break. And you can see we get one leg up and some congestion up to a new high, but eventually we get this second leg up. I don't think you can take anything in here. Especially after the break and the move to a new high, you want to be careful. Yeah. I don't think there's anything in there. You get this failure type stuff, but that's the failure, and that doesn't set up well. I might have marked this as a trap to the long side, but that's congestion, so you shouldn't be getting trapped there. Yeah, and then it shoots up. This failure happens, but far from the EMA. Not crazy about that. This is a third entry. This actually looks like a decent failure. And it also looks like a second entry short, so I kind of like that, even though this kind of looks like a repeat pattern of this, but we actually got the setup here, and it's like a breakout pullback. So you might consider that one, I think. Come up here and you get failure right here, but it's not off a trend line. So I'm not crazy about it, but shoot up, move to a new high. And this looks like a failure. First entry, second entry, and it kind of also looks like a second entry short. Only problem is you wouldn't have the trend line there. So you'd probably be playing that as congestion when you're watching it live. But it drops down, and clearly this is a trend channel now, and you get a first entry, failed second entry long. That's probably my favorite setup of the day. Even though there's congestion, we got this trend channel in play, a good failure setup, so I think you take that. I don't like anything in here. Drops down here. You get a second entry long. You can see that very far from the EMA. Very bullish bar. It's like a quadruple test right there, almost. So you might risk that. This is a second entry long, but you don't know what's going on, so I don't think you can take that. Prices are just going back and forth. You got this first entry, second entry, but it's in an uptrend. You haven't had a break yet. break comes right after that, but not enough context, I don't think. And this kind of just looks like 2 legs down, but technically this is a failure. First entry, failed second entry, but there's a lot of momentum going along there. So, and it wouldn't be, I don't think you would have your trend channel drawn like that. You'd probably have it drawn like this. And so, yeah, that's risky. So that's what I saw. I didn't see a whole lot that I liked today. Yeah, so hope everyone had a good day. I'll be back tomorrow.